Hello humans, Cubic here, and I have a huge announcement for you guys. So Bass Planet Collective and I have teamed up to put on a remix contest for my song Caged that was released on the Digital Cosmos compilation on Bass Planet Collective. So we'll be selecting 2 winners for the remix contest. Both winners will be receiving a spot on the remix EP coming out on Bass Planet, so official Bass Planet release, as well as each winner, I'm super excited to announce this prize, each winner will be receiving their own pair of cubic alien glasses. I'm super stoked on that. I had these made a couple months ago. I didn't know when I was going to put them out, what I was going to use them for, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to give away the first 2 ever made of the official cubic alien glasses to the winners of the remix competition. And there's my cat climbing on my blue screen. Oh, and now my back. But anyways, there will also be a runner-up as well as honorable mentions who will all be featured in a video I'll be posting once we go through all the submissions, just kind of showing off the honorable mentions, the winners, and as well, the runner-up will also get reposted and get social media support. So all the details are on screen, in the description, in the Discord, and on all my social media. So hope to see you guys enter this contest. I'm excited to see what kind of crazy shit you guys come up with. But without further ado, I thought it would be really cool to announce this contest by doing a breakdown of my song Cage, which you will all be remixing. So let's go ahead and hop into Ableton, and I'm going to break down this song I made. Alright, so we are here in the Caged project. Now this project did go through quite a few different iterations. It's not super organized because generally I start projects off in a pretty unorganized space where basically I split everything into things that are being sidechained and then things that are not being sidechained. Generally, things not being sidechained are my kick, my snare, vocals, and maybe some essential percussion and hi-hats that I just don't want being sidechained. Generally, everything else I put in the sidechain group. There's a shaper box 2 where I put a MIDI trigger being sent to it. And then in the shaper box 2, I basically have it set up so that the mids are sidechained one way and then the sub is sidechained another way. Generally, the sub will be sidechained a little bit more obnoxiously, whereas the mid, I keep it so that it's not an insane amount of pumping going on. But it all depends on the song. I always adjust these and I adjust how fast this LFO is hitting. But yeah, like I was saying, I usually start off with my project set up like this. I used to use templates all the time and I found they actually kind of stunted my creative flow because I would spend so much time trying to make sure everything fit in the template correctly, and I would kind of use the template as a way to like dictate what I'm allowed to add and not add. And so I found that just kind of creating new audio tracks in the moment and just having all this freedom to do whatever I want helps me flow a bit better. And then what I do after I make the song is I stem out every single track and I bring it into another project to do the final mix down, to work with it in audio so I can adjust anything that needs to be adjusted, and I can always add things in that project. And so I don't completely know, it depends how long it takes to break this down, whether or not I'll go into the mix down and master project and show you guys real quick what I did there. But regardless, that's kind of my process. This was a song that I made quite a bit ago at this point, so there is certain things where it just might be different than the way I currently work. We shall see. It's been a while since I opened up this project, so we'll just go ahead and go from the top down. This element right here is a Vital patch. I know it says init preset here, but I think that's just an issue with Vital where sometimes it doesn't have the preset that you used. I'm pretty sure this is a preset from the Halcyon Future Riddim pack. I believe it's like this 8 steps closer preset or something. It's a sound effect that Ulasal made in the Halcyon Vital pack, and it sounds like this. And basically I just used the preset. I thought it was an insignificant enough preset. I didn't need to change it. Sounded great the way it was. I just add a high pass filter automation here where basically it's playing in the bridge. And you can kind of hear that in the background, and so I didn't want that clashing with the sub at all. But yeah, I just have this playing at 2 different octaves just for some variation and progression. But as you guys heard in the original song, it's a pretty minimal intro. And I kind of just found myself having trouble with inspiration for how to do the intro and breakdown of this song. So I just kind of left it minimal because it's Riddim, so you can kind of do that and get away with it. And instead of going from the top down, I think I'll actually break down each individual section. So the next thing we have is the vocals. So the vocals in the whole track, my friend Basic was getting me into the game Dark Souls, and I wanted to make a song using Dark Soul vocals. You know, every Riddim artist out there has done it for the most part, and I wanted to jump on that bandwagon. So I just asked him, hey, do you have any Dark Souls vocals that you think I'd like? He sent me a random YouTube video. I did YouTube to MP3, and then out of all the stuff I exported, I chopped out this dialogue.
So come into the cage and become known as she.
Yeah, so let's check out what I put on it. So basically, I put this rack that I put on a lot of vocals. I call it Happy AI Vocals. Don't ask me why I name things weird. Basically, it has a stack of 3 different OTTs. And then it has multiple parallel signals, one which is just a dry signal.
Come into the cage and become...
Then we have one with pitch shifting,
So come into the cage and...
which together they create a weird harmony.
So come into the cage and become known...
And then we have a chorus on here, which is this Native Instruments plugin I love called Choral.
So come into the cage and become...
And just gives it the ambience. Then we have the original AI vocals rack that I made for myself that I have used this like an insane, this is my go-to for like most vocals. It's a manipulator, which doesn't seem to be doing anything.
So come into the cage and become...
Which is a little confusing.
So come into the cage...
Okay, well usually I think maybe I just have that there as like a, in case I want to do something in manipulator, I can mess with it, because I do like using manipulator to augment my vocals. Then there is a saturator, some redux, some delay, some overdrive, OTT, EQ, more EQ, and then a saturator at the end of the whole rack. Basically, this little rack here is something that I made like a long time ago, and it generally destroys the vocals. But if you keep the dry wet low,
So come into the cage and...
that's with none. With all of
So
it,
come into the cage and become... So come into the cage...
so it just kind of widens things, makes it a bit metallic, and the redux adds some like bit crushy crunch to it. Anyways, so that's the first layer. For a lot of my pre-drop vocals, I have multiple layers of vocals. I kind of go into layering vocals with the same mentality I go into layering basses with. Each layer has its own purpose, fills its own section of that full composition. So the next part is, I guess I just wanted more space, and I wanted the vocal to come through a bit more clearly and a bit more in the center compared to this version, which is
So come into the...
a lot wider.
So come into the cage and become known as she.
And so I kind of, my mentality going into this was I want it to feel like it's in a cave. Kind of throughout this whole entire song, I kind of felt like the vocal set the tone, and the vocal kind of made me picture someone being trapped in a cage inside of a dark cave in a Dark Souls castle.
So come into the cage and...
Now, listening back to this, I should have EQ'd this properly.
So come into the cage and become known as she.
Because it had way too much, it has way too much low end in the reverb, but I don't think it really matters since it's just the vocal that's there for like the pre-drop, and that's about it. And it had also an OTT on it. I like putting OTT on vocals just to bring out a little bit of bite. And then the final iteration of the vocal is the vocal with bit speak on it, which actually my bit speak is broken. And so you unfortunately can't hear what it sounds like. But if you know what Bitspeak does, it kind of adds this, like, I don't know how to actually describe it, but it's, look up what Bitspeak does, I guess. Also, Vocal Synth can do the same sort of thing, but if you listen in the final song, that adds a really interesting texture to the vocal, just makes it feel a little bit robotic and just makes everything eerier. And so then when you put all 3 layers together, it's just this cool kind of vocal that has a little more depth beyond just it being a vocal with reverb on it. I did want to tease the vocal, so I do have this little sweep of the vocal. It's almost like a growl, and it kind of just pairs with a resample of the main growl I use in the drop. Yeah, there we go. That's got some echo on it, so combined with the vocal, it just kind of helps add to the ambiance. So next we have cage door opening because I wanted to kind of play with the whole theme of being caged. And so that's something that really helps a lot with kind of building a world in your music, is if you have some sort of theme you can play off of. And so sometimes that's what using vocals from like video games and movies can really help with. So that is literally just a cage door closing with convolution reverb on it. And I kind of used that to help create a kind of groove in that intro percussion loop that you hear. It just kind of worked perfectly. If I remember correctly, I had this perk loop. And I have to warn you guys, I used a decent amount of samples and presets just straight out the box without doing much in this song. I don't do that normally. I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. Samples are meant to be used. Generally you do want to change things up, make it your own. I feel like I did build on to this drum loop, so I'm not like super embarrassed. I did create it into something of its own. But like, it really, the cage door opening just fit in perfectly. It was one of those nice happy accidents. And then let's see, what else did we have? We have a deep cavern ambiance, and I just EQ'd it so it wasn't too bass heavy. It's just very subtle. And then I believe we have more cave ambiance. And this one I also EQ'd as well. Obviously thought it had a little too much high end. I wanted it to be very subtle, and I let that one kind of bleed into the drop, because I always like having at least one texture that's in the intro kind of bleed into the drop, so everything feels like it's existing in the same world. Next we have this little weird ARP thing, is what I named it. I believe it's from a Chime Patreon pack. Yep, and it's some random one shot from a Chime Patreon pack. Oh, it's literally the end of an ARP. Okay. So I guess for some reason I just really enjoyed the tail, and it added some nice ambiance to the background. And you see I have that going throughout the drop as well. So more just kind of peppering things into the drop to make it feel connected within the same world. Then we have this reverse that I actually, now that I think about it, when I did the mix down phase of this, I think this gave me a lot of trouble because it adds a little pop. Yep, you can hear that pop. I remember I faded this out. There we go. Yeah, you want to watch out for clicks and pops in your mix. They can really fuck with like your limiters and stuff like that. Next we got a hi-hat. And I believe I added, so I actually love using this plugin called Endless Smile as both reverb and delay. It just has a reverb and delay that I really enjoy, so I just threw that on there. Gave it a nice little delay. Oh, actually, no, I think I used it more as a build. I wanted to like very subtly build some tension. So as things move along, it's just very subtle, but it's a way to add a little tension. Endless Smile is great for builds. Next we got Happy Cave is what I named this. I guess, yeah, it's called Crystal Caves, and some sort of pad that just added a nice, I guess, ambiance. Yeah, you can kind of hear it in the background. It just, I don't know, it just adds really subtle progression to the build. Because I knew I didn't want to build with a lot of drums, because I wanted everything to kind of settle and then hear that come into the cage. And so I wanted to figure out, and I think this was a bit of a challenge for me at first, how do I make tension build without having drums like everybody does? Then we also have, basically, I think I just searched into my whole sample pack library and I searched cave and just found random samples that I thought applied. So this is just a nice impact / down sweep sort of deal. Let me see if I'm missing anything else in these intro parts. I believe we've covered everything there. So let's get into the drop. This is probably the part you guys give a shit about the most. So we'll start from the beginning. This sick ass growl. I owe it to Ulasile. But I did, to be fair, do a bit of my own finagling, I guess, with this preset. So again, it's saying init preset. I don't know why. I know it's one of Ulasil's growls. Let me see if I can find it. I think it's Evil Dubstep Bass, this one. So here, let me turn off all of the processing though, so you can hear the difference with or without my processing. No processing. Okay, it's actually not as different as I was hoping. So I guess I just made it a bit beefier, and I basically use this kilohertz ladder filter. It's a filter I really like how it feels, and it gives some kind of girth because of the way the resonant peak on the filter is programmed. But I just didn't like the tail that it had, so I wanted to just cut things off. And then I believe there's also sections where I basically changed how the filter... Yeah, I modified the filter automation just to give some subtle movement and like just give each growl its own kind of character. Like that one, I'm just bringing it straight down. And then I believe later on, I also changed around some stuff. So then we have this Riddim fat rack that I made at some point. It's got an OTT that I copied from a NASCO stream, I guess, a long time ago. I used to always just copy people's presets in their streams, and they've made their way into some of my old racks. Then I put a disperser on. Disperser is always quality, especially on growls. Then I got a saturator, and then I have a frequency shifter. Let's see what it's doing. It sounds extremely subtle. Hopefully you notice that. I don't really know how to describe what that is doing to it. And so then we also have some moments where I am automating on a ring mod. I don't know what the thought process was behind that. I'm assuming it's making it a little glitchier feeling. Then I'm also automating a glitch 2. And that's what's just kind of fucking it up a little bit. I like putting stuff like that, like glitch 2, before my final processing rack. So it just it can mess up a sound, but it still feels uniform. But yeah, I just probably went on some random glitch 2 preset, and then I just automated it at a point that made sense. I don't know. This is one of those things that's kind of hard to backtrack and understand what I was thinking when I did that. There's also this 4th growl that I made where I basically froze one of the growls, and then I guess I layered it with this like color-based resample I did a while ago in a sound design session when I was trying to understand convolution reverb and how to make color bass with it. And so I high passed that, so you just get kind of the color-based crunch in the high end, and then you layer them together. It just added a kind of melodic timbre to this because I was trying to make future rhythm and stuff, and I just thought I needed to add in some melody there. So let's get on to the main lead we have going on. Now looking back, there's some things I needed to fix with the mix down in this song. It's very high and heavy. Like already, that's so much cleaner doing that little dip. But yeah, so this is actually something I made myself, a preset that I made myself. I'm not going to completely break this down because this is actually available to you in the remix contest stems. So you actually will be able to just open up the preset and use it however you'd like. But basically it's using the inharmonic, and then it's being FM'd by whatever's going on here. There's some filtering. Then we have OTT, pretty much distortion and chorus on it. And then we have a high pass and some obnoxious adaptive EQing. But I just got lucky where this kind of sounded sick right out of the box. And so basically I put these 2 little notes here because I like the weird like wham wham down. That like it just added a second note that gave it a kind of groove. And then I kind of played with that for the switch up where I played more of a melody. Because I really like the wham-we-doom, wham-we-doom. I like that rhythm it gave it. So that's not all that the sound is made out of. We also have another layer. And now this is another Ulasile preset from the Halcyon pack, I believe. It actually, wait, it might not be actually. Let's see. Oh, no, I actually made this. Yeah, this one's interesting. So it's comprised of this growl, mostly made by the wavetable. And I guess this filter is just irrelevant. And then I'm just automating the inharmonic warp just a little bit differently. It's at a much higher pitch. And so basically what I did is I took that main lead and I just copied and pasted it onto a different track, and I just kind of messed with a bunch of stuff till it gave a different sound that layered well with the first sound. So there's some compression and distortion on this one again. And yeah, this one's just a little bit messy. I don't think it's worth breaking down. It's nothing special. It's just like a random sound that kind of merged well with this. I felt like this needed some more lower mids. And together it's just really subtle, like lower mid grit. Then there's this layer, which I believe is just the same thing as this one, but it's more filtered. I really don't know what my thought process was into this one. Like, honestly, I don't know what it's doing there. And then we've got the sub, which I actually have playing a sustain for the most part. I have, well, here, let's break down this sub. So one thing I like doing with my subs, I like having multiple wavetables to help add harmonics to the sub. So this is all being filtered, and it's a square wave plus a kind of somewhat formant shifted sine wave, it looks like. And I don't know what these two nut and time macros are for. But then this is just being compressed by a single band compressor, and then some nice distortion. Then we have this rack that I must have made a long time ago. That's a filter, a compressor, more distortion, and some EQ and another compressor. This is without it. This is with it. It just kind of adds a nice, more warm, like girthy low end compared to the buzzy high end that you hear. And then we have another saturator. And that's really subtle. It adds just a few harmonics in the lower mids. Then my classic kick tight technique, I put it on F because that's the key that the song is in. And then I have an LFO or an auto pan, basically doing an LFO that's similar to the main lead, quarter note time, but it's just at half the wetness. So it kind of has the pulsing of it, but the sub is still there for the most part, because I found when I had it all the way up, I just didn't like how it felt. It just kind of made things feel a little too empty, and it was like there's almost too much space, if that makes sense. And then I believe that is all for the main layers. Let's look at some of the little glitches and stuff I had kind of in between hits to spice things up. So this is a sound that I made in a sound design session a while ago, and I liked using it in a lot of songs, and it just has OTT and disperser on top of it, like it really needed it. And later I EQ'd this a little differently. So this is also being pitched down. So one of these is being pitched down by negative 45 semitones, one's being pitched down by negative 24. And it's just being added to this veer fill that I have. And I just liked how those sounded together. Then we also have this percussion that I found that I accidentally use a lot. This is from a sample pack, a glitch sample pack I made for Mr. Bill on Splice, but then some stuff happened and it fell through. Originally it was going to be released as a Splice pack, and it's just sitting around, so maybe I'll release it. But basically, I put some saturation and EQ on these, and I just liked the kind of rhythm it gave. Once you hear it soloed, and then you hear it together, it just adds subtle transients to every kind of weird future rhythm growl hits. Very subtle, but I enjoyed it. Then we have Virtual Riot samples, but with some reverb, compression, and saturation on it. Compression's just kind of keeping it more uniform, because as you can see, there's a lot of dynamic range in these hits, and I just wanted to calm that down a little bit, control it. Then we have the first hit of the percussion loop. Again, like I said, just putting some stuff from the intro into the drop to make it feel uniform. We've got the kick pattern. And I believe this is a kick that I made. Or no, actually, I believe this is an ominous kick. I had just gotten the ominous drum sample pack at this point, and so I just was using it like so often. And all I did was put a transient shaper on it, bring down the sustain. And that's apparently all I did. And then, let's see, what is this? Oh, that's that reverse thing again. Okay, so then we go to the clap. Again, ominous clap. But I added a transient shaper, bringing down the sustain yet again. And then I added texture to add noise onto it. Without it, with it. I just really liked the brightness that added. Texture. Texture, by the way, is a really cool, basically works like erosion does in Ableton. It allows you to add any sort of sample on top of whatever's going into it. So it's pretty much like a noise generator, and it has a bunch of presets and different types of things you can add. You can add risers, sound effects, noise, but you can also import your own things. So you can add vocals on the basses, you can add pads on the basses. It's a very interesting way that I might delve into in the future to make like some more melodic sounding basses, as well as among other things. There's a lot of cool applications for it, so something to look into. Then I have a cymbal here. And since this is one of the more main cymbals, I mean, even though it wouldn't even have a chance of getting sidechained, I just didn't want it getting sidechained. And then I guess I have other cymbals layered as like some sort of, I guess, progression. For whatever reason, I decided I only wanted to enunciate these cymbals rather than these cymbals. And then we've got a automate bass that I put OTT and disperser on. And I don't know why that's not being sidechained either, but yeah, it just adds little fills at the end of each bar to just keep the energy moving and grooving and adding ear candy in the whole drop. Now we have one more section to check out, which is the B part of the drop. And all I did there was take the main lead, copy and paste it. I changed a few things with the LFOs. Then I added this shaper box to time filter. It's like a pitch bend. There's also a filter and a crush. Then added some delay. My Riddim fat rack. That's doing a lot of work right there. Then some mid-side EQ and some more adaptive EQing. I feel like I'm calling it wrong. I don't think it's called adaptive EQing. Oh, dynamic EQing, yes. Basically, dynamic EQing, if you don't know what it is, basically, they have it in FabFilter, for instance. You pull down this, and anytime a frequency hits in this area too high, it drops it down. It's kind of like a weird sort of, almost like a compressor for individual frequencies, where you can just have it so that if a frequency gets like too hot, you know, then it knocks it back down. And then it's playing the same MIDI. And then I believe what is this? Oh, so then these are risers I added to add tension. You can hear it in the background. And then I added the same shaper box preset to all the other layers of the original. Except I guess I kept this weird ass layer the same, but I added it to the sub too, I believe. Yep. Right here, it's automated. Yeah, and then it should be all the same glitches and fills. We also have the vocal coming in at one point. And I believe that's everything. Oh, we have this chord layer. This is another from that like set of like color-based convolution reverb sound design session I had. And I just have it layered because I was trying to add more melodic elements into the mix. And it's so subtle, but it helped fill out the whole sound and add more depth. And then we basically get to the bridge, which is kind of where in Riddim I just think about it. You kind of just disembowel the drop. You pull a few elements from the drop that you like, and you kind of just slowly, it's like a skeleton of the drop almost. And then I just add in these from the intro to kind of add tension and give it a little pizzazz. I don't know why I'm pulling out all these boomer words for this tutorial. And so, yeah, that's basically risers, sound effects, and then some of the other layers of the main leads and stuff. And then we have the caged door opening and closing. And then I have some risers and splashes just to make everything feel energetic. Then we get into the second half, which is just the same thing, but I make it a little more, I believe, like melodic. Let's see. There's something new I added in here, I remember. Maybe not. Sounds pretty much the same, but I changed up the vocals. Oh, and I forgot about this. There's subtle cave drips. I don't know what that's from. I think this might have been a resample that I made, but I couldn't tell you how I made it.
And now it's never coming back. So
come into the cage. And all I did for this second drop, which I just realized I probably should have included this preset as well, but I don't know, I guess it's more of a challenge for you guys, is basically I just took the original preset from the first drop of the main lead, and I just adjusted it in different ways. Couldn't tell you what I changed about it. I guess I just changed something in this area. But yeah, it's just pretty much playing a different timbre. And there's also these for some reason. Oh, okay, so I added these like ambient airy noise tones, because it made it feel like a sort of steam engine or something. I felt like I needed to do more than just change the timbre. So yeah, that is pretty much how I made Caged. Hopefully that was helpful to you guys. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Again, I'm super excited to see what you all do for your Caged remix. You got 4 weeks. The deadline, I hope I said the deadline is August 20th. I don't remember if I said that, so if I didn't say that, I'll have to overlay it. But yeah, deadline is August 20th, so you have 4 weeks. Should be plenty of time. So yeah, get to working on those remixes. Link to the stems and everything will be in the description, also in the Discord server. As always, my name's Qbik, and I will see you guys very soon in another video.
come into the cage and become Nana's shade.